Perks have been introduced into Overwatch 2, and they're actually probably a really good addition to the game. I say that a few weeks into having perks in Overwatch 2, maybe a few months later, things will be different, but as of right now, I think perks are a good addition to the game. They offer a lot of variety in hero kits, a lot of variety in how you can actually play the hero, and you choose some of the perks dependent upon the situation you are in. So for example, if you're playing Zarya on Paraíso, you probably want to get those jump ups. But if you're playing on a more flat environment, like for example Runasapi, then you're probably not going to want jump ups as much. Though, of course, they will still be quite useful. When it comes to these perks, I do have to say, a few of them have got me quite underwhelmed, especially the ones where you have just flat stat buffs and stat increases, basically. Is the ones where it's like, oh, if you shoot, you get 15 more ammo, amazing, you know, Sojourn, that's an interesting perk, you know, very versatile, not very context dependent. Overall, those kind of perks are kind of ugly. Those kind of perks, I don't really like those. I'm gonna be honest, those kind of perks are kind of boring and don't really offer much fluidity, much versatility, and you pick them simply because they are the stat buff. You don't pick them because, oh, in this situation, because the enemies are playing these heroes, etc, etc. You pick them because it's just a stat boost, okay? You also have something with Doomfist where he reloads his hand cannon when I think it's when he punches somebody. Not useful at all, actually, not very useful at all. But of course, these are temporary. These aren't things that will probably be in the game for much longer, because these seem like temporary perks, okay? These seem like the types of perks where they're filler. They didn't really have much ideas to ideate on what the perks could be, you know, how good they could be, so they just went stat boost. You know, quick and easy, stat boost. And then you have amazing perks like the jump ups, those are very nice. You know, you have the float on Sigma, very nice. You have Reaper's right click, which gives him some mid-range action, really nice. You have some boosts on supports, like you have the damage decrease on the Moira orbs. Like, sure, that's like on the line between the stat boost or not, but fair enough. You have the whip shot from Brigitte. It's not very useful, but it's kind of cool still, you know, you feel it. When you whip someone, they hit a wall, they get hit. So, very nice, you know, very nice. Now, I'm going to focus in on one hero, and this is just as an example for how I want to see perks progress in the future. I have created 4 new perks, well, one of them isn't particularly new, but 4 new perks to kind of express how I'd like to see the devs take perks in the next iteration. A few design goals, of course. I want perks to really add to the depth of a hero kit. So I don't want a stat boost, because it really doesn't do anything, you know? You put a stat boost on Sojourn's gun, you give him more ammo, you don't really feel it, right? It's there, you feel it, but it's not changing the kit. It's not changing the way you play the hero. What you need a perk to do, since it's not part of the base kit, that's a very important distinction, it's not part of the base kit, so you want these perks to change the way you play a hero, to change the way you set up their loops, to change the way you interact with these abilities and how these abilities interact with the environment. So that is the main idea I have for these perks I'm going to be showing you all today. Now, the hero I chose for this is Doomfist, because he used to be a DPS hero, as we all know. If you were in Overwatch 1 at least, if you were playing that game, he was a DPS hero, and he was very frustrating to play against if the Doom was really good. But if he was not as good, he's really frustrating to play as. So, of course, he got reworked into the tank role, and now he is Tankfist. There's some debate in terms of whether Tankfist should be reworked back into DPS. Now, I don't think that should be happening anytime soon. I think Tankfist is fine, but these perks I've created for Doomfist kind of lean into his DPS identity. They give the player new ways, or old ways, to interact with the kit. It's kind of like how the Blizzard dev team, when they created some of these perks, brought back old Overwatch stuff. So with Lifeweaver, you have his parting gift back. You also have stuff like Torbjorn's level 3 turret, but you also have new things like Torb being able to stick turrets on walls now, so a lot of different things, you know, bringing back old kits. And that's basically what I want to do with Doomfist. I want to bring back some of his old stuff while also introducing new things, you know, new ways to play with the kit. So let me just go through each of these perks. Of course, there's 4 in total, and the first of these perks are the minor perks, of course, because that's how Blizzard has structured them. The first minor perks you'll probably see on the screen right now. The first of them is direct landing. Now, direct landing, basically, when you use Seismic Slam in the air, a targetable landing cone appears which triggers a directed Seismic Slam instead of the usual arcing slam. So if you want to have a visualization of this, imagine playing DPS Doom in Overwatch Classic, alright? So when you use that ability, the Seismic Slam still exists in that mode. If you use it in the air, you get a cone. And that cone basically allows you to do directed slams, which ramps up the damage depending on how much airtime you have. Bringing that into Doomfist's kit is actually quite interesting, because now you have the occasion where if you use slam on the ground, you get the normal arcing slam that you'd get with Doomfist's kit. But then if you use his ability in the air, you get the DPS Doom slam. So now you have 2 different ways to use slam, depending on the context of the situation. I think this is a pretty good way of incorporating the old slam into the new Doomfist kit without completely getting rid of the new slam. The second minor perk goes in a different direction. It actually utilizes the major perk that's already in the game for Doomfist, which is Seismic Empowerment. Hitting 3 or more enemies with Seismic Slam empowers Rocket Punch. So here we have 2 ways to go in terms of using Seismic Slam. This, I think, is a good branch. I think perks should utilize this idea more often than not in terms of having branches. Do you want this ability to go in this way or that way? Do you want it to be more for movement, or do you want it to be more for utility, more for actually confirming kills? Well, in this version of the perk system, or in terms of this version of Doomfist's new perks, you have the option of more mobility or more dive potential versus more brawly potential. You know, you can choose which way you want to take the character. Do you want to use Seismic Empowerment for more brawl contexts, or do you want to use direct landing for more dive-ish contexts? Is up to you as the player to do so, you know? The base kit is still there, but now we have these 2 fundamentally different ways to use the hero kit. Now, in terms of major perks, I went a little bit silly here, and I reintroduced Doomfist's Uppercut with the first major perk. The first major perk, of course, Rising Fist. So it simply adds Uppercut to Doomfist's kit. Now, this can pair well with either direct landing or Seismic Empowerment, because with direct landing and Rising Fist, you basically have the old DPS Doom kit with the added benefit of the fairness and satisfaction of playing Doomfist. So now you have the uppercut, you have the new slam. With old slam tech, you have the diag potential, you also have block, but you also don't have the kill potential that made DPS Doom so annoying. So now he's very much a CC powerhouse, but it won't be as frustrating to play against. The second major perk, of course, goes in a completely different direction as well, where instead of adding a new ability, it simply adds new ways to use all your abilities. The major perk being Empowered Arsenal. So this one, once your gauntlet is empowered, so when you block and then people shoot your block, or if you slam free when you use your minor perk, once it's empowered, all the abilities gain an empowered form. So Empowered Slam would deal additional damage to the enemies in the radius and induce a slow to the enemies in range. Of course, that can be iterated upon or changed if it's too overpowered or not. And then we have Empowered Block, which you might think is self-defeating because you need to use block to empower it, but Empowered Block would deflect incoming damage in the direction Doomfist is looking at. Think of it like this: if you choose the minor perk Seismic Empowerment, you're going to be more incentivized to use the Empowered Arsenal perk, because with the Empowered Block, you'll be able to deflect damage based on who shoots you. Now, it's not completely linked, because even if you choose Seismic Empowerment, you might want to use Rising Fist as a complement to be able to slam into the enemies. So there's a lot of variety in terms of what you choose and how you choose it. This version of Doomfist kit, I'll show all the perks right now, basically incentivizes different playstyles depending on the context in which you're playing, or the context in which the player wants to play the hero. So if you are a DPS Doomfist enjoyer and want to play that hero again, but of course not to the detriment of the support heroes that really just don't want to get one shot, you can choose the direct landing perk and the rising fist perk to just complement your playstyle. Or if you are a tank fist enjoyer and really love brawling with the hero, you can choose seismic empowerment, or you can choose empowered arsenal, and basically gives you new ways to play the hero no matter what your preference is. Now, Doomfist perks right now, in the game live right now, are kind of boring. That's the main reason why I chose this hero for these new perks. It's basically just an example of showing how the devs could use the perk system to complement new playstyles or complement old playstyles. Much in the way we have Torbjorn being able to throw turrets on walls, or leveling his turret back up to level 3, or even using his hammer to heal armored allies. It's pretty enjoyable how these perks are able to change the game in not fundamental ways, like overall, but in terms of changing how you interact with the heroes. Is basically the best of both worlds. You have a case where Overwatch is still Overwatch, just with perks. People playing Overwatch individually feel the influence of perks, feel the changes of perks, but in the grand scheme of things is still Overwatch, which of course is the best of anything, is the best we could ask for. These perks that I suggested, I think could be really good for all Doomfist players, and is a great example in terms of showing how perks could be used in unique and fluid ways, in a way that increases the depth of a hero without completely getting rid of or eroding the hero fantasy in which you play them for. With that said, thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed that. You know, perks in general, amazing. Okay, perks are an amazing addition. We'll see how they go a few months in. I would love to see the addition of spectator changes. I'll show an example on screen, but right now it's kind of hard to see what everyone is choosing. So maybe that could be fixed up, but that's more for OWCS. You know, I won't get into that right now. But with that said, thank you very much for coming. Hope you have a good day, and you know, perk it up. You know, like as Aaron Keller said, perks. You know, that's 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 it.